Hello my friends, welcome to Ride Review. Today we are checking out a proper electric mountain bike. This is the Ramblas from Aventon. It's their first mountain bike and oh my goodness, it is great. They have gotten so much right on this bike. Now the reason I'm calling it a proper electric mountain bike is that, there's a lot of e-bike companies out there that, try to make an electric mountain bike because they're popular and they can sell for a lot of money, and so they, slap a powerful motor on there and some good suspension, some nice wide handlebars, an aggressive geometry frame, and call it a mountain bike. Doesn't really work that way though. For one thing, there's a lot of trails that restrict how powerful your e-bike can be if you're going to ride on it, the mountain bike trails in particular. Typically you can't have a throttle, typically your motor's not supposed to be over 250 watts nominal, and there can be some other restrictions, but that's kind of the gist of it. And then also there's some stuff that companies do that doesn't work well for actually riding on more aggressive trails. A lot of mountain bikes that I've seen and reviewed have a hub motor in the back, which is it's heavy, and it's right in the center of your rear wheel, so that's not ideal, especially for jumping. And also they just don't get that great of torque compared to what we have on the Ramblas here, which is a mid-drive. This is actually their in-house motor, the A100. So Aventon designed and built this motor, and it's awesome. I mean, oh my goodness, it's so efficient and powerful. So it's a 250 watt motor, which doesn't sound like a lot, right? Especially if you're used to hub motors, like 750 and above sounds like a lot. But when you have a mid-drive, it is able to leverage your pedaling drivetrain, right? So instead of being connected directly to the wheel, it's connected to the chain, which is connected to your rear cassette. So it can take advantage of the gear that you're in back here. So that if you're in first gear, then the motor gets a tremendous mechanical advantage, and that 250 watts feels a heck of a lot more powerful than you would think. And the motor can also peak up at around 750 watts. So if you're riding up in turbo, you can get a crazy amount of power out of it. Now, in the trail rides that I've done, I've actually only used it like in the lowest boost setting, which I think is just called like eco, because that's been really all that I need. That's because you have such a good pedaling drivetrain on here. This is from SRAM, the SRAM like NX. We've got the Eagle derailleur on here. This is a 12 speed. I mean, look at the size of this cassette back here. That is an 11 to 50 tooth range cassette back here. So if you're all the way up in that 50 tooth first gear, you can climb hills no problem, even if you don't have the motor engaged, which is why I've mostly only used eco and bumped it up to trail maybe once or twice for some of the more intense hills that I've been going up when I was really tired. I could be in better shape. I haven't done that much extreme mountain biking until I got this bike. All that to say, this thing is amazingly efficient. Your range when you're riding with electric assist on, I mean, I feel like you could easily do 50 to 100 miles, kind of depending on what assist setting you have it in. Some of that's because you have such a massive and powerful battery in here. It is in the down tube right here, 705 watt hour battery, which for a mid-drive mountain bike, that's actually quite big. So that helps out with the range. And I like how they have set up the battery on the Ramblas here, because there's this shell on the outside that comes out, which I think we can do just right here. Boom, there we go. So there's the battery. You do need a key to remove the battery, but once the battery is out, you can put the shell back on, and then you can ride it without, hold on, let me get this back in. There we go. With the battery out, you can have the shell on there and ride it. That saves you some weight. And then if you're riding on a trail that doesn't allow electric bikes, you can take the battery out. Now you just have a regular mountain bike. Maybe a little bit heavier than the average mountain bike. So for this one, this is the extra large frame, then you're looking at about 54 pounds in weight with the battery. So you can take the battery out, shave off about 8 pounds. Now that is still a little bit hefty for maybe like a super premium mountain bike. Those can be down as low as 30 or even less than 30 pounds depending on the brand, but you usually pay thousands and thousands of dollars for those. They can get quite pricey. For the Ramblas here, looking at a price of $28.99, which for a good quality hardtail electric mountain bike, that is quite a steal. And something else that I think adds a lot of value to this is, for one, it's Aventon. Aventon has tons of dealers all over the country. So if you're in the United States, it's not going to be hard to find a place to get this serviced, to go in and test ride one and get fitted for it before you buy it. And then also you have the choice of frame sizes. This one's an extra large. You can go down from there to a large, a medium, and even a small. So pretty much anyone is going to be able to find a version of this bike that is going to fit them. For the 3 largest sizes, you get 29-inch wheels on here. These are 29 by 2.4. These are the Maxxis Recons. They're awesome. They're so grippy. I mean, you can see all the dirt and stuff in here. We've been doing quite a bit of trail riding on this bad boy. I love having the 29s because you get, they're a little bit taller. You get better rolling efficiency for going over obstacles. It's just, oh, they're fantastic. And if you go all the way down to the small, then it's going to be a 27.5-inch diameter. You know, at some point, the 29s are just too big of a wheel for the frame. Something else the Ramblas has that's really a must if you're really serious about mountain biking is a dropper seat post. So you can kind of see it sticking up out of the seat post tube right here. And you have this little lever right over here on the handlebar. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press on this and then push down on the seat, and boom, now it is all the way down low. So this is crucial for serious mountain bikers because you can adjust the seat height so that if you're going downhill, you need some more room in the cockpit, you can drop your seat down quickly and you have room to maneuver. And then when you are on the uphill, you want better leg extension for pedaling yourself up, then you can press that dropper right there and whoop, pops right back up. You never have to stop and adjust your seat. And it's trying to go downhill in particular, if your seat is all the way up at this height, is not a good time. It limits how much you can move around in the cockpit. It can be dangerous. You can end up flying over the handlebars in some scenarios. And so if you don't have a dropper, then you end up having to just ride with it at the lowest height, and then you lose out on pedaling efficiency on the uphills. So I love that they just included this by default. Like I said, they've got all the stuff that you need to make this ready to go and hit the trails and not have to do any modifications on it. Let's come up here to the cockpit. You can see this, nice wide handlebars. I love the cockpit layout on here. We've got the nice locking grips on here, trigger shifters for the SRAM drivetrain, single click ones here. And then it's a very minimalist cockpit, as you can see. Display is right here, small, out of the way. This is a great placement for it, honestly, because it minimizes the chance that it's going to get damaged if you crash. And that's kind of the nature of riding a mountain bike on trails, is that you're going to have some wipeouts. And so a display mounted up here, probably not going to last very long. Good job with it there. Now, if you want, there are extra accessories that come in the box for this. There's lights. This is where it would connect right here, and you can mount it up on the front. It comes with a kickstand as well, but none of that stuff is attached to it by default, really showing again that Aventon understands what you're going to be using this for. You don't want those extra accessories on most mountain bikes, well, because A, they're probably going to get damaged when you crash, and B, it's just, it's extra weight. It's things that can snag on stuff. If you have a kickstand down here kind of sticking out, that's going to snag on branches and rocks and probably get broken off. Heck, you can see we got some damage right here where the kickstand would even mount. So kudos to Aventon for knowing you probably don't want them, but throwing them in there just in case. If you're riding around town or going on some more chill rides at night, it could be nice to have a kickstand and some lights. Let's pop on up here and look at the display and control system. Another thing that I really like about it is how minimalist it is on the bike. So we're going to hold down the power button here, and all that you get, power button, plus, minus, that's it. There's no throttle, there's no fancy anything. You've got your speed right in the center here. I haven't had any trouble seeing this display in bright daylight, but I haven't tried it with polarized sunglasses. Not sure how it would hold up there, but you don't really need to be looking at it a whole lot. It starts out in off, which means there's no pedal assist, and you can hit the plus button, and then you can see the levels changing in the bottom right there. You got eco, trail, turbo, and that's it. You can go all the way back down to off. And so, just riding the bike as is, very little to even have to worry about. You have a power meter here if you want to see how much motor power you're using. You can short press the power button and then come out here, see your odometer. I've got just shy of 22 miles ridden on it so far. Total time ridden, average speed, we'll hit that again. You got your trip data. And then if you want to mess with the settings on the display, you can do a little bit here. Hold down the plus and minus. Clear your trip timer. Change your display units, brightness, automatic power off settings, auto headlight settings, system info, pair it with the app, and that's pretty much it. So there's not a lot you can do here, which I think is how it should be. This is nice, minimalist. It's just get to riding. Now, if you do want to customize it, you can actually, oh my goodness, you can go crazy with this thing with their paired smartphone app. Let me pull it out here. Here we go. Okay, so I've already got it paired with the app, and their app is really well done. I've seen some pretty janky apps in my time. So you can control the basic stuff for the bike, you know, like your assist levels. You can see when I change it here, it immediately updates it on the bike display. No noticeable delay. But where this really gets fun and useful, there's two main areas. The first is the usefulness, which is firmware updates. So you can come in here and update the firmware for the bike, which is updating the display firmware, the BMS, the motor controller. I assume that's also the motor controller. Now, it used to be that if you wanted to update the firmware on your bike, you'd have to take it into a dealer and they have to connect it to a computer. It's this whole big ordeal. And those updates are actually pretty important. They can fix bugs, and they can also just add performance improvements, even new features. So being able to do that yourself over the air, awesome. More companies are like kind of starting to figure out this is the way to do it. Kudos to Aventon for not only doing it, but doing it well. Yeah, I've had some where I even bricked the bike trying to update the firmware, but this one just went right through, no problem. Now, where this gets kind of fun is for your assist level. You can come in here and hit edit, and then for each one of these profiles, you can adjust the torque settings, the assistance levels, the pedal responsiveness. You can do that for eco, for trail, for turbo. So if you don't like how this bike rides out of the box, and you know, maybe you want the eco to be even a little bit more toned down, then you can tune that in here. So it really, I mean, it's the sky's the limit for customizing this for exactly how you want it to feel. And then you know, if you do goof something up, let's get back in here. If you do goof something up, they got the handy little factory reset button here, so you can just put it back to the default, and then, you know, maybe start customizing it again over from that. And I love that they have all the charts and stuff in here. You can save it to the cloud or just apply it directly to the bike. I'm gonna see if there's anything else I want to talk about in here. You can't go up above 20 miles per hour, but you can, you know, if you wanted to drop your speed limit down lower, you could, you know, if you're trying to just, you know, I don't know, go a little bit slower, maybe be a little bit more power efficient. But I think that about covers it for like the really cool stuff in the app. You can, of course, come over here to this recording thing, and then you can record your rides. So then, you know, after you record them, you can see them in here, you know, track them over time, that kind of thing, which can be pretty fun. I haven't played with that part of it, so I can't comment on how it works though. Let's see, what have we not talked about? There's so much exciting stuff on the Ramblas to cover. The suspension on here, RockShox suspension, 130 millimeters of travel. This is fully adjustable too, so if you want to dial this in for just how it's going to perform, you know, fit it for your weight and the types of trails that you're riding on. I've been a big fan of this suspension so far. Now, I'm not exactly an expert on tuning it, but I had somebody help me to kind of dial it in when we did our longer trail ride at Lowry State Park, and it felt awesome. It is a hardtail, of course. There's no rear suspension on here. So if you're looking for a full suspension bike, you'll have to, you know, keep looking, but those can get really pricey. You know, you typically pay $4,000 to $5,000 at least for a good quality full suspension electric mountain bike, and not everybody needs it. I honestly really enjoyed riding hardtail. There's so many trails that you can do on a hard trail and have an absolute blast on it. And so I think it's going to be more than sufficient for most people, especially if you're kind of just getting into mountain biking. You know, you don't need to go all out with the full suspension right off the bat. Start with hardtail and see how it works for you. We can talk about the brakes as well, also from SRAM on here. So we've got these nice small 2-finger levers here, nice and lightweight, out of the way hydraulic disc brakes, and they have a 203 millimeter rotor on the front up here. This is where most of your stopping power comes from. And then if you're looking at the rear wheel, this is a 180 millimeter rotor. These brakes are awesome. Quad piston calipers, fantastic stopping power. I had no issues with them on a very long and highly technical downhill trail that we did, even when one of the other bikes had some issues with their brakes starting to overheat. Not so for the Ramblas. What's up, everybody? Tyson here from Ride Review. I want to take a quick moment to tell you about Micromobility America. This is a micromobility focused conference that is happening in Southern California on November 14th and 15th this year. Now, we are pulling out all the stops and trying to get a lot more dealers, and you know, if you're a store owner or maybe a distributor for electric vehicles, I mean, you know, bikes, scooters, skateboards, EUCs, you know, micro cars, anything like that. we want to get you involved at this event. We're going to have representatives from hundreds of manufacturers there. Most of these representatives are going to be, C-level, founders, engineers. So if there's brands that you're interested in, you can, skip the email chains and just go, straight to the people who actually make the decisions and can really tell you what these products are about and why they made them this way. Also at this event, you can expect, we're going to have networking mixers, we're going to have after parties, we're going to have the dealer awards, we're going to have a Shark Tank style competition where manufacturers can bring in some of their, new and outlandish product ideas, and then the dealers will get a chance to, vet those and rank those, see if they're going to be good for the market or not. If you guys are interested, please check out the description of the video. You're going to find a link where you can learn more and get registered. All right, back to the video. Okay, we're going to do just a quick little bit of riding. There's a few things I want to demo with just kind of the riding position, motor volume, responsiveness, etc. But this isn't really a proper ride test. If you want to see that, check the video description. I've linked a couple of videos there. The first one is our EMTB showdown, where we pitted this against some other electric mountain bikes through a series of challenges. And I've also linked a ride test from when we did a nice long ride at Laurie State Park on a highly technical trail, so you can really see what this can do, in a mountain biking environment. But for today, we're just going to do a little riding on the street here. I've actually got it in off right now, so I'm just gonna kick it off and ride it like a bike for a bit. Here's a look at the seating position for this. Again, this is the extra large frame. I'm pretty tall too, 6 feet 3 inches tall. This one fits me great. I don't have the seat raised up as high as I could, just because it, especially for riding trails, I don't like to be, sitting all the way up and lean that far forward. Right here feels pretty good for me to pedal close to full leg extension. And then when I, use the dropper seat post and drop it down all the way, and I have, lots of room to work with in the cockpit for those downhills. Okay, let's pop that right on back up. And it's a very stable setup too. I mean, this is pretty common for most mountain bikes, just from the way the frame is set up, the rake and trail. They tend to be very stable for riding no-handed. This one's one of the easiest that I've ridden on in quite a while. And even without the motor turned on, I mean, we're cruising along at 13 miles an hour. We're even going on a little bit of an uphill here. It's such a good drivetrain they've got here for just the pedaling drivetrain from SRAM. Awesome. Let's bump it on up here into eco mode. So you can probably hear the motor kicking in a little bit. It's not a terribly loud motor, but it'll kind of have its moments if you really start to pedal hard and you're up in like one of the higher assist levels. But just eco, pretty tame. You can see the power assist level there is barely activating because I'm pedaling pretty lightly. But then if I kind of push down a bit harder, I mean, look at that boost of speed. We're already up to 20 miles per hour in just a few seconds, and that's just in eco. That's what I was talking about earlier, where if there was something I was going to tune on this, I might actually kind of dial eco back just a little bit so that it's even less assist. Because I like to try and maximize my exercise, especially for mountain biking. So if I, come down to basically a dead stop here in eco, I'm just gonna start pedaling as hard as I can. And there we go, 20 miles per hour. And I didn't even shift gears. I'm kind of right in a middle gear here, just so that I don't have to worry about shifting, since I'm riding with one hand here. We're gonna do that same one again though, but we're gonna bump it up into turbo. So all the way up into turbo mode. Slow it down to stop, and then here we go. Whoop, 20 miles per hour. Just massive acceleration. It feels so dang zippy. Okay, now I'm going to see, I'm going to try to push past the cadence limit of the motor. So most mid-drives have a maximum cadence limit measured in RPM, or revolutions per minute. And for cheaper motors, or I guess lower end motors, it'll be closer to 100, and for higher end ones it can be 120 and even beyond. But the moral of the story is that if you pedal too fast, then the motor can't really keep up with you and it just kind of cuts out. And when I was riding the trail ride at Laurie State Park, I actually hit that quite a bit, and it can be a little bit frustrating because once you pedal past the limit of the motor, it stops, and then even if you slow your pedaling down, it doesn't kick in until you stop pedaling and then start it again. But I just installed a firmware update that is supposed to fix that. So we're gonna see if we can get that to kick in. I'm gonna come back down to Eco. We're going to shift down to an easier gear so that I can, you know, get pedaling really fast. And then I'm just gonna start pedaling here and see if we can go past it. Okay, we went past it, the motor cut off. Now I'm gonna slow my pedaling down. And yeah, it's still nothing from the motor. But if I stop and then start again, boom. We get responsiveness back. So it looks like it still does that same thing where once you go past the cutoff of the motor, you have to completely stop pedaling and start again before the assist is going to kick back in. And I mean, I know I said it was frustrating, but it's probably kind of a minor thing that you just need to get used to. Let's see, one more thing we can demo here is the responsiveness and the volume of the motor. So here, let's get kind of away from the traffic here so we can actually hear the motor. And I'm going to, let's go up to a little bit harder of a gear. So the responsiveness of the motor on the takeoff, on the start, is so good, especially from a dead stop. You get basically instant power, which is really handy if you are doing a steep and technical uphill. You need that instant responsive time to it. And it's so finely responsive to the amount of pressure that you put on the pedals as well. It's so incredibly responsive for if I am pedaling lightly, just a little bit of help, I'm gonna push a little bit harder, like instant. Slow down again, very light. Actually gotta shift a harder gear here. Okay, one more time, we're going to pedal very lightly. Can't even hear it, and I'm just gonna slowly start pushing harder now, and really hard. It's probably kind of hard to hear because this motor really isn't that loud. It's just, it feels so good. It's an incredibly responsive motor. It's measuring wheel speed, pedal cadence, and torque, which is how hard you press onto the pedals. And so you get an incredibly responsive ride experience that, you know, simply saying like, oh, it's a torque sensor doesn't really do it justice. There's a lot of bikes that have a torque sensor that's just a very basic torque sensor that, you know, doesn't actually feel all that responsive. This feels top-notch. I wouldn't say that it's, you know, quite at the level of high-end systems from, say, you know, something like Bosch or Yamaha, but it's very close. When you consider how affordable this bike is compared to e-bikes with a Bosch or Yamaha system, this thing is awesome. Okay, my friends, we are at the end of the road for today's review of the Aventon Ramblas. As you can tell, I'm a huge fan of this bike, and I'm incredibly impressed with how awesome it is, considering that this is Aventon's first mountain bike. I mean, they have crushed it. They've picked excellent components. They've included all of the stuff that you're going to need if you're mountain biking, you know, like the dropper seat post, for example. Love seeing that on here. I really honestly don't have any bad stuff to say about this bike. In terms of design decisions, I think they absolutely crushed it. You know, really the only quote-unquote negative I could say is that, you know, it's a hardtail, and so if you want a full suspension one, you're gonna have to look somewhere else. But, you know, if you're happy with a hardtail, you want to save money and get a good quality built one for a reasonable price, that has dealers everywhere, that has different sizes that you can choose from, that you can take the battery out and ride like a regular mountain bike. I mean, for getting access to all the trails everywhere, this thing's awesome. Okay guys, if you want to see some more ride test footage, including lots of trail riding, check the description below for links to those videos. And if you have any questions about this bike, let me know in the comments section and I will get back to you. Okay guys, you know the drill. Ride safe out there. Catch you in the next video.